direction, misdirection sets the stage to turn the page. At the raising of the curtain, I am hurting and uncertain of the parts that we have played. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again? Fading out of the close-up, everybody's reeling, no concealing. Your beauty is seed stealing. Violins are singing, sunset's waiting, radiating. Your entrance is breathtaking. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 37 of the Four-Wall Sunday Roundtable. My name is Drew. I'm one of the hosts. Good to see everyone. Thank you for joining. I come to you with a sore right arm today. And before I get into more of that, I'll bring in my co-host, Jeff Croyder. Hey, Jeff.
It's not because I hit you or anything.
No. You didn't punch me.
You've been vaccinated, shot one?
Yeah, I got my first shot on Friday. My wife and I, it was kind of a surreal experience as far as the last time I was at the Las Vegas Convention Center was for CES.
Sure.
So to be back and see kind of everybody working together to, get their shots and everything was really nice to see. Also, talking to strangers for the first time, I told my wife when we were waiting in line, the people in front of us and everybody was just like talking and I was like, man, this is the first time I've ever talked to a stranger in over a year. So that was, that was interesting. So yeah.
Was there like a lighting rig in the convention center?
No, it was all the house lights, but I looked up and just to check it out.
Cool. Yeah, sure. The last time I was there, I think it was for LDI, and there was more smoke in one place than I've ever seen anywhere. So. Well, I'm glad you got it. Is it one of two? Is it the kind where you need to get the second one?
Yeah, it was the Pfizer vaccine, so I'll be back. In a couple 2 weeks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Happy
but before we get started with our electrician panel. We are going to be joined by Rich Easter, who's a friend of Four-Wall, who is going to be just talking to us briefly about the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. And let's bring him in.
Hey. Hey, Drew. Hey, Jeff. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Congrats on that shot.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, seriously. Drew, thanks so much for making the time to come to us and give us a couple of little discussion about the intricacies of the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant, or SVOG. They couldn't find a better group of letters to go together, I don't know, for some creative people. And so here we go. So first of all, what is it? Can you give us a brief description of what the SVOG is?
Yeah, absolutely. So you might have heard it called Save Our Stages. That was the original name for the SVOG.
Right.
And what it is in December, Congress passed a bill to fund the SVOG, essentially to provide live venue operators, theaters, even museums and movie theaters, some sort of relief from the pandemic and the revenue that's been lost. And so, generally speaking, and there's a lot of different intricacies, like you said, Jeff, it's going to provide a grant for 45% of a venue's 2019 gross revenue. There's a couple of things you need to, couple of boxes to check for overall eligibility. One, the venue can't be majority owned by a publicly traded company, i.e. someone on the stock exchange. And number two, you had to be in operation as of February 29th, 2020. So if you hit those two big boxes, then we can kind of dig deeper into eligibility as you kind of look through, depending on the type of venue that you are. But at 45% of gross revenue for 2019, hopefully this is going to be a big shot in the arm, right? Not to play that up too much for venues as we start getting back to normal.
Got it. Are there any updates since any updates you can give us since the law was passed? Anything we should know, that we haven't seen in the news?
There's three really important updates, and they all have to do with the bill that was just signed last week. So one, they added more money to the pot, an extra $1.25 billion. So now the entire pot is $16.25 billion. Billion with a B. That's a lot of money, and hopefully it's going to help out a lot of venues.
Yeah.
Two, they've started, although they won't commit to an actual date when they're going to start accepting these applications for grants, they're now saying early April. So we're starting to get more of an idea of when they're going to start accepting applications and you can start actually applying to get the money. And three, this is the most important one. The new bill that was passed last week changed a provision. So when the bill was originally passed, you essentially had to choose between round 2 of PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, or SVOG. And so that put operators in a really tough spot because since SVOG wasn't open, they were trying to figure out, do they go with kind of the sure thing on PPP now, or do they wait and take a chance with SVOG later? The new amendment to the law has now erased that requirement. And so now all operators can actually get PPP and SVOG. And so that's a really important difference.
So quickly before we let you go, what should they do now? What should people do now? And I guess I should say anyone, I don't think there's a lot of theater venue owners watching right now. Maybe there are, but there are a lot of people watching who work for venue owners. So you can pass this along and they can maybe watch they should watch the whole show to see what you all do for a living. But also they can, if nothing else, watch the first 8 minutes to find out what to do next. So Rich, what do they do next?
So the first thing you do, because this is federal grant money, there's a couple of registrations you need to do, and it's a 2-part process. So first is getting what's called a DUNS number, D-U-N-S. Once you get your DUNS number, you use that to register on sam.gov, SAM.gov. That process takes about 2 weeks. And so if you reverse the timeline and we're looking at early April for a start, that's really the most important thing you can do right now. So a simple Google search for DUNS will get you to the website you need to be at. And then once you get that DUNS number in a day or two, hop over to sam.gov, get your organization registered, and that'll get you ready to roll.
Thank you, Rich. I think we have put the link to your blog. Yep, here it is. It's also in the...
I put it on Four Walls website today, so if you're interested, it will be in the comment section on both Facebook and YouTube. Just go ahead and click the link and visit our site or our blog post that Rich put together for us. So, Rich, thank you so much for the information, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Yeah,
very cool. Have a great show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich.
Take care.
Perfect.
Great. So that's great information. It really will make a difference to a lot of these venues all across the country. And it's time to bring our panel on. And we have another great group of people. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Again, as I've said before about people, electricians that we've had, this is our third electrician episode, I think. Arguably the most important people on the lighting team. I can't say this enough that the great electricians lower my blood pressure and make my job, everything about my job, easier. So let's talk about what that means. Come on, let's bring him in, Drew.
Alrighty, production electricians. Our first one is Paul Chadwick.
Hello,
Hey,
Paul.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next is Dan Coey. Hey, Dan.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Dan.
Next is Tom Dyer. And last and certainly not least, Iris Novick. Hey, Iris.
Hi, Iris. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
We're going to start a little different. So let's get started.
Jeff's Roundtable Rapid Fire.
It's like a game show.
Beginning of the show. And Dan, you are up first.
Dan, what was your first experience in the world of live entertainment?
My first paid job, I think, was I did high school lighting, but my paid job was working Conway Twitty, an old country artist, performed, and it was 120.
Your first non-paid job before that, like going way back, deeper.
Middle school, high school, backstage theater shows. Yeah.
Paul, what was your first experience in the world of entertainment before you were a pro?
Elementary school, 5th grade. I got to turn the switch on the wall for a play that the teacher decided to do.
So it was lighting from the beginning. Tom, how about you? What was your
same thing? Elementary school.
Was it lighting?
Lighting.
Cool. Iris.
Summer camp, 12 seam preset. Just roll up those dials.
Amazing. Iris, sticking with you. So what was your first paid job, your first professional gig in the entertainment business, whatever it was?
First job was actually in college.
Yeah.
I got hired for a work-study program, and I got hired by the music department as the technical liaison between the theater department and the music department. And I was basically in charge of the recital hall. They had a piano board.
Yeah, sure.
But
sorry, Iris, go ahead.
I just really brought lights up and down. It wasn't a whole lot to do, but it was my first paid job.
That's your first paid job. Tom, what was yours?
I was AME after my sophomore year at Theater by the Sea doing summer stock. And I ran A, B, C, D switch boxes for Hal Binkley.
At Theater by the Sea?
At Theater by the Sea. First job.
We ever talked about this? I was the master electrician at Theater by the Sea. We have talked about this 150 years ago. Paul, what was your first paid job?
Nebraska Theater Caravan as a carpenter, building a couple of Christmas Carol sets.
They're probably still out there somewhere. Dan, what was yours?
I got paid $100 to work like 12 hours for 120 park cans,
And you were sold, and that was it.
15, and I was absolutely sold.
Amazing. What was your first job? So that was your first job as an electrician also? Your first professional job was your job?
That four-way, that led into working for the lighting company that, provided the 120 park ends. And I, sat in the back and repaired twofers for, all summer.
People still have to do that, right? Twofers are still, of all the updates in our industry, twofers are still breaking. Yeah. Paul, what was your first job as an electrician?
Well, not counting stuff done in college, I guess my first job as an actual electrician, no other responsibilities, would probably be with a little company here in Vegas called Illumifax. They don't exist anymore, but I did a lot of the shows that they installed.
Cool. Tom, your first job as an electrician?
It was Theater by the Sea.
Amazing. Iris.
Lighting shop.
Yeah. Which one?
Production Arts.
Production Arts. I remember it well. And what was your first job as a head?
The job I presently have.
And can you tell us what that is, please?
Head electrician at the David H. Koch Theater at Lincoln Center.
We will ask about that again in a little while. Tom, what was your first job as a head? Do you remember?
My 4th year at Theater by the Sea.
Amazing. Paul, what was yours?
Again, sticking with professional, that would have been the same company, Illumifax, that gaffed most of those installs. We did a lot of one-offs and a lot of theatrical installs for seasons and things like that.
And Dan, how about you?
The Graduate, pre-Broadway. It was my first pink contract head job. So I'd been in this before, but.
Yep, right. Yeah. And so So this is a good transition. Dan, where do you primarily work? What do you primarily do and where do you primarily work?
Really, mainly Broadway, almost exclusively. Occasionally there's other gigs that pop up, but 90% Broadway shows. So.
Yep. Paul, how about you?
Anywhere I can. I've done a lot of work internationally and throughout the country here, mostly effects stuff, but a lot of electrical installations as well.
Got it. Tom, where do you work?
Off Broadway.
I know this. Tom and I work together. Dan and I work together. Iris, and you just told us where you work.
Lincoln Center, yeah.
And how long have you been there at the Coke Theater?
More than 20 years. 21, 22.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how long have you been ahead? Yeah.
Right.
1 year.
Oh, great. Congratulations. Amazing.
Thank you.
And Iris, so what sparked, pun intended, what sparked your interest in live entertaining lighting in the first place? How did it begin for you? This can be a slightly longer answer than the rapid fire, but where did it start?
It probably started at a Genesis concert at Madison Square Garden. And I remember Phil Collins came out and he said something about audience participation time. And at that time, there was a circular rig above him. I don't remember how high above. And all the lights were pointing out. And he said, audience participation time. That circular rig, all the lights went whoosh. They all changed position. He had like a green curtain of light around him. All the other lights went out. Of course, there was a spotlight or a white light on him. And I was like, how'd they do that?
I wonder if that's before or after he paid money to start the Verilight company. Probably.
I'm not sure.
Obviously, he knew. He cared enough about lighting.
Right.
So,
I've heard that story. I don't know the timing.
yeah, I wonder. Tom, how about you?
I was watching how light he had R40s flying in vertically that I had to chase on switch boxes to the music. So he taught me to love it.
I think he taught a lot of people to love it. That's Hal Binkley, ladies and gentlemen, Hal Binkley. Paul, how about you?
Probably goes back to community theater, I would say.
Yeah.
And creating things with a lot of people who just want to be there for the love of the art, that kind of thing.
Cool. And Dan?
I was in high school and we were doing a dance concert and we wanted some more gear, and the local lighting shop gave it to us in exchange for me sitting in the back building twofers. And eventually they paid me for it. And like all my friends were working in fast food and I was, working at a lighting shop. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it maybe was. It probably is. Maybe not fixing twofers, but rapid fire complete. See, it's a great way to start. Now we're all warmed up. I think we just did in 5 minutes what it is in the past taken us 25 to do. So yeah, here we go.
We'll stick with Dan. Is there anything you'd like to add to the story of your path to your career that you've been through for the folks watching?
No, just that I was really lucky. I mean, I really was. I assume it happens for a lot of people, being at the right place at the right time. But I mean, I got my union card the day I turned 18, and I think I had my first pink contract job within 4 or 5 months, and it was really lucky. It was great. So
cool.
Definitely. Yeah, Paul, how about you? Is there anything you'd like to add to your career path?
No, my career path has mostly been, when you start, you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So I've done worked for small dinner theater operations and smaller operations where you're the carpenter, the designer, the lighting designer, and electrician and board op all at the same time. And right. I've done a lot of those and just grew through doing all of that.
Definitely. Tom, how about you? Anything you want to add for your career?
It's a very small world. I was doing a Spike Lee movie and the production manager said, "You're doing my next gig," which was Don Holder's Jitney. So I did the transfer of Jitney and never stopped.
That's awesome. Iris, how about you? Anything you want to add to your career path?
It just kept moving, just kept talking to people, getting invited. Hey, you want to do this? I know somebody, introductions, and it went, from the shop to the road to Lincoln Center.
Mhm.
It's talking to people.
Yeah.
Or they see the work you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, let's go to you. So, Paul, what's nice about this panel is that you all really do very different things. So, Paul, what do you do? In your opinion, what is your job and what are your responsibilities where you work?
Currently, as I'm the production electrician, head electrician for a show here that we're just starting up, and I've been, it's just coming back, and I've been in that position for quite some time now. And I would say that in this sense, where we're just starting back, where the lighting designer's coming back in and everything else, my job is to get the rig that he's designed installed, to get it working, and to make it as complete and as pristine as I possibly can.
What is that show?
Magic Mike Live.
And where did you guys had not opened? You were not in the theater before the shutdown, or
we were in the Hard Rock for 2 years. We loaded in originally in 2017.
Right.
And we were at the Hard Rock, and then when the Hard Rock was sold to Virgin, they closed the place down. So we had to look for a new venue, and we found one. And then, of course, then the virus came, which slowed everything down. So right now we're in construction. They're building us a new theater. They're pretty close to completion. I'll start my gear load in there on the 29th of this month. At this point,
amazing. That's great. And Tom, how about you? What do you do?
I joke I'm the executioner because I execute designs like yours. I do about 30 or 40 shows a year, so I bounce around a lot.
You do how many shows a year? Say it again.
As needed. 30 to 40.
Yeah. And Dan, how about you? What is your job as you see it?
I find myself in the middle. I am in the middle between the production manager, the lighting designer, and house staff a lot of times, and I help get the shows. The bid out. I help in the bid process. I hire staff for the show, and then check in on them and make sure the shows are running fine. So
yeah. And Iris, as a house head, you maybe do something a little different. What is your job on the day-to-day?
So I hire the right people I need for the job we're doing that day. Of course, the guys, I tell them what needs to be done and they go ahead and do it. I'll step in if there's a problem. And really, we're there to execute the light design. This is what you need. This is where we'll put it. And of course, problem solve as we go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Iris, sticking with you, can you just give us an overview of your time spent on a project, like a Cliff Notes start to finish from the beginning of the process?
It's different for the different companies that come in. We have a resident company, the ballet company, and then we have visiting companies. And a lot of the visiting companies have been there before, so they know us, we know them. But in general, I'll get a list from the TD or the production manager from the theater as to what's coming in, the days, how many on my crew we think we need for each day. And there's probably a production meeting at some point. That could be a week before they show up, a few days before they show up. Of course, that's when we'll go through problems that we see on the plot or on the schedule. So every project or every gig really is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it starts with a schedule, look at the plot, problems we see. Hey, what if, did we think about that? And then, 2 questions turn into 20.
Right. And Tom, can you give me an overview of time spent on a project?
It's pretty similar to Iris.
Yeah.
It usually starts with a text from a production manager or a lighting designer. Get a calendar, hopefully get paperwork before we need to have the shop order. Circuit plot, get the crew, hang the show, focus it, maintain it.
You guys make it sound so much easier than it is, though. It's so easy. That's it. Just like hang the show, focus the show.
Experience.
Yeah. Paul, tell us about an overview of time you spend on a project and from the start.
A normal project or the one I'm currently involved in?
Let's do the one you're currently involved in.
Magic Mike.
Yeah.
The one I'm currently involved in is kind of a smorgasbord of electrical installation and theatrical production. So I have a little bit of both, and I've had to coordinate between the electrical contractor and the framing contractors and the architect and the electrical engineer, as well as my designer, programmer, assistant designer. And then, of course, making sure that I stay within the production manager's budgetary requirements. We started primarily with a concept and hammered it out, bringing on board the architect and everything else, or they started with, I should say. And then once the architect had completed the plans, went into engineering phase, and then that's when I got really involved. At that point, I didn't know exactly what I was going to need. So it was a matter of taking the lighting design, knowing the show, and trying to come up with every possible scenario I could think of to make sure that I would have power where I needed it to be. And we've just gone from there. So it's been a lot of back and forth and a lot of, oh my God, they didn't give me power here. I'm going to have to do something about that and everything else. Yeah. Along the way, it, of course, as I'm sure everybody else here is familiar with, I mean, it's documentation. I just document so I can go back and find out what it was I did and why in the heck I thought this was a good idea.
That's awesome. Dan, how about you? Give us an overview of your time spent on a project.
My schedule's been kind of almost routine for the last few years. I mean, I start in the shop on a show, and I'll get involved with the show in summertime. Start in the shop in end of August, load in September, get the shows open, or at least in previews by Thanksgiving. I mean, a straight play is going to be a little less time, but they want shows open in the city for the holiday season, and then January 2nd, you're loading out something. Something didn't make it, and you're leaving the shop to go load out a show while you got the next one, that's going in, that's open for Tony cutoff.
Right.
And so it's and then with any luck, I'm gonna have 5 weeks off in the summer, but sometimes you get that nice summer show, and then you don't have the 5 weeks off. So,
right. So from when you start at the shop, you're spending your time at the shop. How long is the shop prep for a typical, let's say, musical that you do?
Yeah, musical. It doesn't 10 years ago it was 3 weeks in the shop, and today it's 3 weeks in the shop. It doesn't matter what the show is. It's just amazing to me. It's like 15 working days. It seems like, and if the show's giant, well, then you're just not going to be as ready. It seems like Sure. I will say I need more time, or I need less time, but it always ends up being this.
It's still 3 weeks. And Tom, what is it? What is the shop time for you? Is it the same kind of regimen? I know it's less amount of time, but is it the same for every project?
It depends on the show, the general manager, the production manager. Sometimes we can't even get prep. We just dump it in the theater.
They just unload a truck and you figure it out where it goes.
Which is a nightmare with more and more intelligent equipment, because you can't just hang it.
Because it's not as intelligent as you want. So Tom, let's stick with you. We've spoken on the show, and everyone in the business speaks about collaboration. It's been a theme on the show quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between lighting designer and electrician? Be nice, first of all. Do you work differently or change your approach depending on who the designer is? Be nice.
Yes and no. I mean, it's still the same process, but I've done over 100 shows with you, so there's certain questions I don't need to do and don't need to ask. Certain things I could be proactive about, figure out in advance. Venues I've been in, I already know some of the answers, so it depends on the designer. It's still the same process.
I can mute Jeff if needed.
You can remove me from the stream.
Yeah.
You haven't. You say. What do you say? You say you had the opportunity for for a
Areas of
solution.
opportunity. Areas of
Right.
opportunity.
Areas of opportunity. That's my favorite phone call to get. I have an area of opportunity for you.
It's not an
Which
issue.
translates
It's an area
to. And Dan, how about you? Dan and I work together as well. And Dan, you worked with my wife, who is in Legally Blonde the musical, she's watching right now. So maybe she'll ask a question tonight. What is say again?
Oh, just much in the same with Tom. I mean, it all depends on who the designer. I mean, like there's some designers I've done dozens of shows with, and others that I'm just meeting for the first time. When they walk in the room.
Yeah.
So you know what you can, what you have to report, like the questions you need to ask. A lot of times I find the tough part, or where I get put in my place often, is where the line falls about how much the designer wants to know the nuts and bolts of, or
Sure.
Is this an assistant or an associate question, and that always takes a little bit of feeling out, but it becomes very apparent very quickly. Some designers don't want to know anything about how it gets done. Just make sure that this light there is working. And others are super concerned and want to know, so it all just, unfortunately, there's no set recipe on how to do it. You just kind of feel it out,
Yeah,
So.
sure.
Do you, Dan? I'm interested too in that, since I'm not like a lighting designer or anything. But how does that conversation? Like, do you have a certain question, like a list of questions to fill that process out between the
Sure,
lighting
as I'm
designer?
laying down a show, I will go through and I just jot down notes, and because I try not to email people constantly. You can try and group everything together, and at the end of the day, okay, here's my list of notes. And I've had designers say, I don't want to be on these emails. And I've had other designers who say they don't want to be on it, yet they're the ones responding at every turn. So you just have to feel it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Paul, how about you in your world?
Well, the designer that I'm working with on Magic Mike, they've done this show 4 times all over the world right now. So they pretty much know what they want. And that collaboration is just my listening to them and understanding their needs as best as I can, and then trying to make it happen. But in the rest of my career outside of Magic Mike, I would say it's pretty much like Tom and Dan. Every situation is different. You feel out how the designer wants to communicate and what they want to do, and you do your best to give it to them. I also deal a lot as a contractor, so in those instances where I'm contracted to do an installation or to provide a design and a program, there really isn't anybody like a designer. So you have to go back to the customer and try to figure out exactly what is their intent. What do they want to see?
Yeah. So you become you are then in a way the designer. You're the interpreter of what of what they want to see, I suppose. Yeah. Iris, and what is it like at the? I was going to call it the State Theater, but I can't do that anymore. The Coke Theater.
The Coke Theater. Because we get a lot of companies that have visited us before. We have a relationship with them, so I know them. They know me. They know the theater, and I'll just say, when do you want to start focus? And that's really what I need to know. And then I can then guide them. I'm there to execute the plot. So I can then guide them as to the quickest way we can get to begin focusing. And if they want to start focusing out front first, great. That's what I need to know. Or what scenery are we waiting on? But for companies that have not been in the theater before, I will, again, I'm there to execute their plot, but I would give more suggestions on, I know you want to do this, but I don't think it's going to fit there too well. What if we tried? And that's when, I give suggestions. I'm not changing their plot, but I am giving suggestions so we could get through it in the amount of time we have. And a lot of these visiting companies, they're only in for a week, maybe 2 at the most. So we don't have a whole lot of time. Usually the first show is our final dress rehearsal.
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to get them, usually once we ring out the rig and they can start focusing, they're happy. And anything that comes up after, we can deal with it.
Yeah. It's so fun. It's interesting that the shows are very similar in size to what Iris and Dan do. And, Dan, you get like 3 weeks in a shop, and Iris has like in 3 weeks, the show's in and out and done. We had someone on the show a few weeks ago who says that, he basically loads in a 1,000 light plot in 2 days, does a show for, a TV special for 2 days, and then it's out and you never knew it was there. It's, we all sort of do the same thing, but there's a lot of different ways to turn lights on and off and plug lights in. Tom, let's go to you. So, and just in terms of collaboration from like outside the lighting department, who are your closest collaborators? Who are you dealing with who are not in the closed circle?
The set designer and the props person are the two allies.
Yeah. Is that because of how much scenery lights up in this day and age?
Or how much scenery is in the way, or props that aren't correct for what we need.
Right.
Like that. You get a lampshade and you're told it's a practical.
Right. Right. Paul, how about you in your world? Who else do you deal with outside the lighting?
Outside of lighting, I'd say at my level, it's probably like the head carpenter, technical director. Right now for Magic Mike, because we're sharing a lot of the same paths, would be the head audio, the A1 for the show. And then production manager.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dan?
Yeah, I'm the same as Paul. I mean, it's production manager sort of first, that's the central information, location. I mean, they have all the information. I mean, there's always the email with the sound guy load, let's cut down on cable runs here, and then the carpenter, obviously. I mean, just, how are you going to hang it, and, where do I need to, where they're going to pick up something, affects cable drops, and, you just try and stay out of the way,
Yeah. And Dan, do you have on your team, since so much scenery, since, set electrics can be an entire light plot these days, do you have someone on your team that handles set electrics, or is that something that you have your hand in the whole time?
It's it's the shop. It's the scenery shop mainly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try and be certain to make sure that it is the shop's responsibility, and it is the shop, that this was agreed upon and paid for. So I like to try to stay on top of the shop. I mean, certainly, but we're not necessarily doing the install. Anytime we're doing the install or anything like that, it gets messy and expensive.
Sure.
So I mean, it all depends on, unfortunately, the scene shops that I deal with primarily are 2.5, 3 hours away. They're all
right.
Or, wherever they are. And so,
New York or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of times I have a couple of people who work with me, that live in that area, and, they will stop by and take a look. You can know within 5 minutes in a building whether something's going to work or not. And,
yeah.
So.
I saw Tom laugh because exactly what you just said. What happens off Broadway is, the bid from the scene shop is too expensive to wire it up. So they back up a set that has no wiring, and then,
and it costs,
or everyone's wondering why at, third day of tech, the set still doesn't light up. Right, Tom?
Oh, you're correct. If it comes in pre-wired, it's not going to work anyway. So
right.
Or sub-bidded, and we end up fixing it, spend more money.
And it's not cheaper to any production managers who might happen to be watching. It's actually not cheaper. Iris, sorry, I didn't mean to jump past you there. Who are your closest collaborators outside the lighting department on a project?
Similar to, I think, what Tom said. I've got, head of corps, head of props, and of course, I believe what Paul had said, I talk with the TD or production manager. We look at things together. We look at what the problems we think we're going to have or what we have to work around. And sometimes it's an easy conversation. Sometimes it's, 5 of us standing there saying, how are we going to make this work? But, the other heads, TD and production manager, are really who I collaborate with.
Yeah. And you have, I guess you have regular hires there. Is that still the case at the Coke Theater? There's a group of people who you work with every day on the electrics team, and then overhire on top of that.
Correct. So we have what we call the basic crew. Corps has a basic crew, props has a basic crew, electrics has a basic crew. So on electrics, these are the guys I'm going to hire first, unless I really need a specific skill, like somebody who can program movers or an audio engineer. Even though I have them on my crew, I may need another, or my regular guy may not be available. But yes, I do have a core group of guys who I hire first. And then
what are
the extras?
What are the basic positions at the Coke right these days?
I have 2 foul spots. I have one all the way out front of house, one on the bridge, just over the stage, all the way down stage. I have an audio engineer. I have a light board programmer. What do I have? I have a stage right. Our curtain is electric. So electrics runs the curtain. So we have what we call a curtain man.
Got it.
Our stage right man is, we have an elevator, a drop cut all the way up stage that moves. Our downstage electric, our first electric, the bridge is electric, and that moves sometimes on pauses, on intermissions, or just at half hour. And then I have a stage left basic guy who knows where everything is stage left.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories that I tell, and I worked there a very long time ago at that theater. And I think my first day it was a New York City Opera, and I handed a stagehand a stack of gel. And I said, here's the stage left gel for the booms. And he said, Jeff, hi, I'm the stage right guy. I haven't been stage left in about 10 years. So you should hand it to him. I was like, okay, fine.
They know where everything is on their side of the stage.
That's right.
I mean, I can send the stage right guy to stage left. And, my guys, I'm like, you need to know where everything is. So if he's out sick, I need you to be able to show the guy who's going to come in that day or whatever. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're going to transition into lighting rental shops. Dan, I'll start with you. What is your relationship with lighting equipment rental shops? What do you look for in a rental shop, and what makes a good relationship between a shop and electrician?
I look for someone who's going to cover for me, to be honest with you. Like when I put in a bid or when a shop order comes out, I always at least put in something, and I make a quick understanding that this is in as a placeholder, because the design's not solidified by any stretch. Things are going to change, and the shop order gets agreed upon weeks before things get finalized. And occasionally, I mean, like anyone, I'll miss stuff, and I don't want it to come back and cost more money. I mean, that's really the end of the game. I mean, that's really it.
Yeah.
I mean, and just people that I enjoy working with. I mean, certainly, but
sure.
Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. Paul, what's your relationship with rental shops?
I'm pretty much like Dan. I'd like to have a shop that I'm comfortable with, the people there, dealing with the people there. I've done with a bunch of rental shops here in Vegas, and you always know, I think, what you can expect from each shop after a while going in. But yeah, pretty much you look for those places, for those shops that are going to give you the maximum amount of flexibility after the job's been let.
Yeah. Iris, is it, do you deal with a lot of shops? I mean, are you dealing with the shops directly from the State Theater?
So I'm not putting in shop orders,
right,
but we are receiving equipment from shops. So who's ever coming in, probably has a rental order. And I want a shop that I can call and say, this is broken and I need one now.
Yeah.
I need somebody who's going to pick up that phone and say, we got you.
Yep.
That's, and of course spares are sent and all of that, but I once hung a show with, I don't remember, 20 movers or something. And it was just mover after mover after mover. We had a problem. And let's say we had spots and washes, we had a spare of each, and we blew through the spares right away. And I was like, guys, I need a shop that is dependable, that has the service to back up. We know things fail, but now I need a replacement. I can't fix it. I don't know what's going on. And I have a curtain in 4 hours. What can you do for me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even better would be a shop that doesn't send you 20 broken moving lights, but yes.
Equipment fails, things happen, things are, we know that. But I just need somebody who's going to pick up that phone and say, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. Tell us what you need, we'll get it. And usually they'll just drop it off at the stage door. That's fine. I can pick it up there, guys.
Right. Truck's on its way. That's all you want to hear.
That's all I want to hear.
Tom, how about your relationship to shops? What do you think?
It's the same thing. It's a partnership. And you need them to be honest, tell what's really going on, and go from there. I mean, luckily, if I'm doing a bunch of shows, I can steal from Peter, give to Paul, whatever, move things around.
Yeah. Really quick, I want to just hit one more thing before we push ahead. So, Tom, stick with you. When you get a light plot, and I think Iris sort of answered this question already. When you get a light plot, do you look at it and say, do you know? Like, can you tell if it's going to be a problem down the entire time from the beginning? I mean, what's your analysis like?
Yeah, it also depends on the designer you've worked with or not, and the space. But you can usually tell if you're going to have enough coverage, or if it's a show with you, I can figure out what you're thinking, your areas, if you flipped it, whatever you're doing. Right. Or any designer. So yeah, I look at it and tell the production manager we're going to need more time. We're going to be doing ads halfway through tech, whatever. Right. So try and be proactive.
Yeah. And Paul, how's that? What is that like for you when you're handed a light plot? Can you tell what the process will be like?
It's pretty much the same as Tom. Yeah, I think so. You go through the plot, you make your notes, you come up with your questions, jot them down or whatever, and then at that point you try and get some answers. And out of those answers, you're going to get a sense of how long a particular project within that installation is going to take.
Yeah. And Dan, what is it like for you? You work with a lot of the same people, I think, also.
Jobs. I look at jobs. That's the first thing, is how many people are going to be on the show. And, whether or not I think the production manager is out of their mind for thinking that we can do without a tech guy,
He always isn't. He always in a dick for some reason, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing. So.
Yeah, got it. Iris, you sort of you alluded to this before. But is there anything else you want to add? What you do once you first get the light plot?
Pre-COVID, we got a lot of Chinese companies, and their units. I'd look at a plot and I would tell the TD or production, I have no idea what these lights are.
Right.
It says what it is. I Googled it. I have no idea what it is. I don't know how much it weighs. I don't know. Is it 3-pin or 5-pin DMX? Are they bringing DMX? Does it want regular, what kind of plugs are? Whenever a Chinese company comes in, all I hear is they got it. They'll bring everything. I was like, yeah, sure. Okay.
So what happens?
We talk about it. I talk about it with the TD or the production manager. I say, can we get a better idea what these lights are?
Yeah.
But usually the Chinese companies, they come in, they have spares, they understand their units. They're very similar to a Vari-Light or a Martin or whatever fixture
they sure
it is. But they're so different. But they've toured America before. They understand they need certain adapters or connectors, and they tend to have it, or they have the parts and pieces and we'll build it.
Got it. Okay. Well, thanks.
Cool. Well, let's get to round 2 of the
Jeff's Roundtable Rapid Fire.
Alrighty.
I think the second time it's actually funnier.
I know.
Um,
All right, we'll stick with the same order. Dan, you're up.
We're going to start easy. Dan, what do you eat and drink at the morning coffee break? 10 o'clock in a Broadway theater.
I try and bring my own yogurt, but occasionally a men's buttered roll is weak spot. So
Yeah, it's absolutely. Paul, what do you have at the morning coffee break?
Coffee.
So much coffee. Tom.
Iced coffee.
Iris.
Tea with caffeine, and usually a banana or maybe a dairy-free yogurt with my own granola in it.
It's going to add that we've talked a lot on the show about what we miss about live entertainment being shut down, and I have to say that morning coffee break is high on my list of things I miss. Iris, sticking with you. First restaurant you want to go to once you feel safe enough to go to a restaurant?
Pomodoro. 72nd and Columbus, 71st and Columbus.
Right. Tom.
Brew 57.
Yeah. Paul.
It's not really fair because we've had restaurants open, so been there.
What was the restaurant that you went to? Did they ever close at all, or they?
Well, they all the restaurants, or at least all the ones that I know about, were open for takeout here in Nevada. So you could always get takeout even in the most severe times. And then they started opening up with capacity restrictions. And since they opened up with capacity restrictions, there's a little steakhouse that we like to go to across the street, and a wonderful Italian place that we like to go to. They're both right across the street. So
that sounds very nice. Dan, how about you?
To be honest, I'm not looking forward to going back to any of the restaurants in New York and Midtown. Just I'm so tired of all of them. I mean, I want everyone.
Did Dan freeze to everyone or just to me?
He froze.
He's frozen on me.
Okay. Dan will be back. But Paul, we're going to go to the next one. Paul, what is an important skill needed to do what you do?
right now, I think computer knowledge. I mean, that's become my most valuable tool. So I guess that from a personal characteristic would be patience and yeah, a lot of patience. So computer and patience.
Yes, good. Both good answers, and both computers require patience. Tom, how about you?
Communicating, upward, downward, everywhere.
Iris.
Patience and listening skills.
Yep. Did we get Dan back?
No, not yet. He left, so hopefully he's restarting. I see Al on the horn with him now.
Okay,
so.
Great. Iris, sticking with you, what an innovation that has made your job easier?
Actually, it's on my iPhone or anybody's phone. The camera, I can take a picture.
Yeah.
A picture is, says 1,000 words. I can take a picture, send it, and they understand what I'm talking about, the problem I'm having. I can even do a video and send it. And that is, well, the thingy here isn't talking to the thing, come on. A picture, a video, send it. I could send it to multiple people, and we're all on the same page right away. So, and I know it's been around a while, but I like it.
No, listen, it's great. Tom, an innovation has made your job easier.
The IFR app and also the DMX Cat.
Right. The IFR app is to people who don't know. Can you explain what that is?
You can talk to the console with your phone. You can communicate.
Right. Yeah. Paul.
I'd have to go with what Iris and Tom both said. I'd agree with both of that. Yeah.
Cool. Great. So then, Paul, something that has gone away that you miss.
Gone away that I've missed.
Product has something disappeared from the market, or it's all still there. Like par cans are disappearing, like that.
I can't think of anything that's. I'm sure that one of the others would probably come up with something, and
We'll come back to you.
Yeah,
You
let me,
can
bring,
guess.
Dan, let me bring Dan back in. Dan just popped
Dan,
in.
Dan, I'm gonna come back and ask you a question that we had to skip. I will say, Dan, don't feel bad. The last electrician episode we did, every one of the guests somehow disappeared at one point through like some of the smartest people, like, gone. So that's what makes it fun for me.
I'm in my attic. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. That is at least you didn't click the wrong button like some of the other people. Dan, and first of all, Dan, an important skill needed to do what you do. We're going to catch up.
Patience.
And an innovation that has made your job easier.
Console link.
Yeah. Great. And is there something that has gone away that you miss? Is there a product that has disappeared that you wish didn't disappear? The answer could be no, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I don't miss lighting products. I mean, no.
Who's next, Drew?
Tom.
Has there something that has gone away that you miss?
I miss the Par 64s and VL5s.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yep. VL5. Iris?
The product hasn't gone away, but it is on the way out slowly, is incandescent.
Sure.
A lot of LED everywhere, and I love the light from an incan.
Sure. Paul, do you want to take a crack at answering this, or you still pass?
I don't have any. I'm kind of more like Dan. I don't really have a lighting product I miss.
That's great. Iris, sticking with you then, something that doesn't exist, but you wish did, or what would you invent if you could invent anything?
Oh, invent. That a light could read my mind when it's up over scenery and I can't bring in the pipe, and why aren't you working? Can't you tell me? And all the Wi-Fi, all the, talk back and everything. I'm not getting any talk back. Can't you just read my mind?
Great.
I really don't. I'm really not sure.
Nope, that's a good. You can invent anything you want. It doesn't have to be doable. Tom, how about you? Anything you want to invent?
Velcro hanging positions.
There you go. Paul. Oh, Dan.
Oh, yeah, Dan.
Okay.
I'd love to invent an easier way to get from trucks into a New York theater, like some loading doors dock situation. I don't know. I'm tired of pushing boxes in the snow.
Yep. A magical way to get from a truck to a theater. Paul, what do you want to invent?
Well, I kind of like with Dan, and that was a great one that Tom had, Velcro hanging position. But I wouldn't mind inventing an anti-gravity projectile or something like that. I could point at a case and let it float across to where I needed it, those kinds of things.
Star Wars, they have that. Paul, sticking with you, least favorite thing you have to do as part of your job?
Load out on the strike.
Yeah. Dan, least favorite thing you have to do as part of your job?
Weekends.
Yeah. Sure. Tom?
It's the most important, but I hate scheduling.
Yeah, sure. Iris?
Telling somebody, let's say you just rang out the system, you did a dimmer check, everything worked. 2 minutes later, something doesn't work. Why not? I hate saying I don't know.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. What's the favorite part of your job, Iris? Saying I guess.
After we have gone through everything. So I guess the first show.
Yeah.
We've gone through all the production meetings, all the schedule changes, all the hires, all the problems, all the troubleshooting, the shop, the truck didn't show, the truck is late, the truck is here, the freight elevators are working, whatever. We've gone through it all.
Yeah.
And whatever happened, we still have a show. So
yeah,
curtain going up on the first show.
Yeah. Tom, favorite part of your job?
The camaraderie. I see basically the same people every day or every other show.
Yep.
It's nice to finally catch up with them again.
Yep. Paul?
I'd agree with Iris. That opening night where everything's working just the way it's supposed to.
Yep.
Wash your fingers.
Dan?
Two, I think, is my first day with the orchestra. That's always a special day. And when the director agrees to have the production meeting at the last actor break.
That is my favorite also.
That's gold. Yeah.
And yes, and where no one's allowed to sit down. That's the other favorite production meeting I like. Dan, so how have, this is, you can a slightly longer answer, how have advances in technology changed the way you work? Is there a quick answer to this question?
I mean, everything's gotten easier. I mean, with technology, I mean, the lights are more intelligent, certainly, and everything, but I don't know, it just feels like if you have power and data in places, I mean, you can sort of just figure it out, but in RDM, I'm not well versed in it, but the little bit, every time I use RDM successfully, I'm so thrilled, and I think, I think of the time when I was in a harness going to get to that light that I don't have to get in a harness, anymore.
Right.
Since harness.
Yeah.
So, and that stuff's only going to get better, you know.
Soon they'll, like what Iris wants, they'll be able to read your mind.
They really will be,
Paul, how have advances in technology changed the way you work?
Well, when I started years and years ago, it was all about making sure you had the right wrench, and if you had one of those super cool lighting wrenches that would do everything, like you were something else, and that was in. And now, like I said before, a computer is my primary tool. If I don't have that, then I can't function.
Yep. Tom?
Dividing and conquering. You have to have the intelligent group and the conventional group of crews, of assistants.
Sure.
Be able to fix the LED tape that didn't come in correct, things like that.
Speaking of RDM, I feel like anytime the LED tape's doing weird shit, it's because the RDM is on. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Iris.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
The question was, how have advances in technology changed the way you work? The light can't read your mind yet, but up until that point.
I think it's back with the computer being able to share files easily, Dropbox or whatever file share you're using. Of course, email being on a thread and everybody sharing ideas, sometimes that's too much. But really being able to share files easily.
So this last one, I think we may have already answered this in a number of different ways, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Iris, what is the thing you miss most? One thing you miss most about live entertainment being shut down? I know there's many.
The applause.
Yeah. Tom?
The people I work with.
Paul?
I'm kind of with Iris again. I guess it's because we both like that first, that opening night. But the applause, yeah.
Dan?
People I work with, yeah.
Survey says this is like Family Feud. It's the two most popular mentions. Okay, Dan, sticking with you. So work aside, Dan, what have you been up to during the pandemic? Has there been anything you've ignored that you're finally getting to? Want to get to?
A lot of house projects and stuff like that. I run a lot. I spend a lot of time running. My daughter is struggling with fractions, so I've been relearning, complex fractions and improper fractions. So
that is a lot. Yeah. Iris, how about you? Up to anything in the pandemic that you wouldn't have ordinarily done?
Besides trying to take a few online classes, I am all about taking care of the body, taking care of myself. I believe nothing feels so good as feeling good. And I do a Zoom once a week about natural ways of taking care of the body.
That's amazing. Paul, how about you?
A lot of online training and a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have gotten involved in before. Like I'm doing a community emergency response team training. About finished with that. I did COVID officer compliance certification. So those kinds of things that I wouldn't have really thought about back when I was working today.
And Tom.
We adopted 2 chocolate lab puppies, which was not in the plans for this year. And we renovated our kitchen, which the contractor let me do the demo myself. So
Ooh.
2 30-yard dumpsters I filled up by myself.
Well, that's nice. The contract let you. I hope he took some money off, but you know. Tom sent us a picture that I was going to ask for earlier, but that's a very young Tom Dyer with George Lucas. What? Just before we say goodbye to everyone, what is the context of this picture, Tom?
This is the opening of Disney Studios, and I was the lighting trainer on Indiana Jones' Epic Stunt Spectacular. So George hung out for the first few days.
Amazing.
Cool.
Oh, cool. All right. Last question for everyone. Iris, what advice would you give to young people who want to do what you do?
Be on time and learn as much as you can. So if you are passionate about lighting, that's great. Maybe learn a little carpentry, because you're going to have to figure out how to hang that light somewhere that you don't just have a pipe to hang it on. Or maybe learn props or sound. And that way you'll always have work.
You might want to demo your kitchen someday. So, Tom, what advice would you give to people?
When I was in college, I worked with Marcia Madeira, and I said, what do you advise? And she said, don't be the person that knows everything. Be the person that everybody wants to work with.
Yeah, great advice. Paul?
Pretty much the same. Be open to learning everything you can, and remember that you don't know everything, and don't come in with that kind of an attitude.
And Dan?
Be patient, be flexible, and hustle. Just hustle.
Yep. Great advice. We come to the end of our program. Before we leave, is there anything any of you would like to add or retract or clarify?
Going once, going twice.
Dan, did you want to say something?
No. You're trying to think of anything. Nope.
Okay.
Great. Yep. That's the end of episode 37. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to Dan, Paul, Tom, and Iris for being on the panel today. We will be back next week for episode 38. Jeff, you want to quickly talk about that episode really quick?
Yes, it's the anniversary of the Gilbert Hemsley. Which anniversary is it? Is it the 38th anniversary? Sorry, maybe I'm making that up. And we're going to have some former interns on, and we're going to have some people who run the internship. And we're also going to, I think they're going to announce the winner of the first Hal Binkley Fellowship grant.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be doing that next Sunday, same time, same place. If you haven't, go check out episode 1 of Light Humor. We hope you were able to check out that animation. It's been great reading all the comments and reactions to that. Episode 2 is in the works, so we'll have that later in the month, or maybe at the beginning of next month. And thanks again, everybody. Actually, one more thing. I did have an email from somebody saying that we should put this up on YouTube. These episodes on YouTube. They are on YouTube. So if you want to watch those, if you don't want to watch them on Facebook, sometimes it doesn't save your timestamp. So if you want to watch them on YouTube, they are available on YouTube. Maybe we'll put them on a podcast channel soon. Thank you again, everybody. Panel, thank you. It was great, and we will see everybody next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.